Okay, so this is the British Inland Waterways on the Air and Mills on the Air presentation by me, Lindsay, Mike 6, Yankee Mike Bravo. And this is for the Stockport Radio Society, who celebrated 100 years in 2020. Okay, so the first presentation this evening, and it's the first of two, this is BIWOTA, a beginning, a middle and a future. In the beginning, in 2010, John Rogers, M0JAV, was a gentleman with a boat and an amateur radio. He loved to go out on the boat, and one of his favourite pastimes was having a good old chat on the radio. So he decided he would combine the two and start the British Inland Waterways on the Air event. Initially operating from a gorgeous little narrowboat called Carnival, at an event called the Shackleton Family Festival in 2010. It began as just John and a few members of the Hinckley Amateur Radio and Electronics Society. These are some of the narrowboats on the Ashby Canal at Shackleton in Leicestershire for that year. This seemed to be quite popular, and the calls came through and interest grew in the event. So John decided to register this as a special event station with the RSGB. At this time, John was also involved with RSGB and had this classified as a special interest group as well. 2011 saw the first official BIWOTA event take place, and John and Carnival operated from the IWA Festival in Burton-on-Trent. In the first official year, it was reported that there were 44 registered stations, and at least 19 of these were from narrowboats. This is the British Inland Waterways reports for 2011 and 2012. In July 2013, this number did drop to 19 locations registered, with 11 radio clubs involved. All 11 had access to or were operating from the water or at the water's edge, and it was another great year. The report to the right reads, British Inland Waterways on the Air, BIWOTA, brings together the users of the canals and rivers in the UK who are amateur radio enthusiasts. 2 events are planned so far this summer. On the 13th to 18th of June, GB2 BCN will be operating from the Pells Hall Canal Festival on the Wearley and Essington Canal, part of the Birmingham Canal Navigations, and the festival celebrates the 200-year-old canals that thread through the large plateau of land forming the UK West Midlands. GB2 BCN will accompany the 100 or so narrowboats that will rally together at the festival. Further are details on QRZ.com pages for GB2 BCN and G8 CQH. Then the 19th to the 21st of July sees the National Waterways Festival at Castleberry Park on the Grand Union Canal at Watford. This weekend will be the official BIWOTA event in 2013, and they hope to have more stations on the air than the 44 achieved for the launch event in 2011. Stations wishing to participate should consult the BIWOTA site and use forums to register their intentions. They are looking for someone to run a special event station from a boat or caravan at the festival in Watford. 2014 saw a further drop in registered stations, but the locations rose to 20. The event took place over May Bank holiday this year, so operators were making the most of the long weekend and getting into spaces that they'd normally not operate from. And again, in 2014, 2 events were planned, with the main one being the bank holiday weekend, slightly earlier than the usual at that time, in the hope that propagation would be better than in the last 2 years. Celebrating the 50th anniversary of the reopening of the Southern Stratford-upon-Avon Canal and the 40th anniversary of the reopening of the Upper Avon Navigation, the Stratford River Festival on the 5th and 6th of July will again see BIWOTA stations on the air, and award certificates were available. In 2015, the format of the event changed ever so slightly with the introduction of worked all Britain squares. Operators were now starting to be encouraged to utilise these and find some rare squares to add to the logbook. It was ultimately a quieter year for the event, with only 10 locations registered. The records get a little foggy around 2016, and I can only now give you information from my own club's perspective here, Nunsfield House, ARG. Stefan, M0OSL, was, at the time, an intermediate holder who loved to go out and do the event stations with NHARG. One such event was the BIWOTA event. 2016 was the first year they'd taken part, and they were supporting another club, DADAR's, Derby and District Amateur Radio Society, as they did on many other special event stations. Operating in the garden from the Stenson Lock Cafe, formerly Stenson Lock Cottage, they had a great event, despite the noise floor issues at the site, and very quickly planned for 2017. Unfortunately, one of the driving forces from DADAR's, Dave Goodwill, G1 VAB, passed away in the first part of 2017, and DADAR's did not plan on participating in any events that year. So with this in mind, Stefan and the NHARG Club decided to start to plan the event station for themselves. They applied for and ran GB8 RTS from the Solin Marina on the River Trent. And at that time they were running a Cushcraft R5, a Diamond tri-band collinear, and an 8040 wired dipole. Operators at the time were Stefan, 2 Echo Zero Victor Kilo Mike, Derry, 2 Echo Zero Romeo Romeo Fox, and Connor, 2 Echo Zero Echo India Yankee, and they were operating a Yaesu FT736R and a Kenwood TS870. While the other members of the club took a few breaks. So we have Ken, G3 OCA, Peter, G6KUI, and Richard, 2E0 ZDY. 2017 was a very lean year for any BIWOTA participants, with only 3 registered stations for the entire event. John Rogers simply did not have enough time on his hands to actively promote the event, and any help he previously had disappeared into the ether. So in early 2018, Stefan approached John with an offer to help coordinate and promote the event. Thankfully, John agreed to the help, and Stefan officially became part of the BIWOTA team. The 2018 event finished out with 9 registered stations, one of which was the NHARG station GB5 RTS. They still had issues with the noise floor from the location, and for 2019, they moved to the Ashby Canal and operated from the Moira Furnace Museum. No issues there. And that is the Moira Furnace itself. And right at the top there, you can see the antenna that's been plonked on the top of the tower, and the station below in that little marquee. The Ashby Canal runs right along the back of it. Moving forward now to 2020, the year that never was. As we were all locked down and unable to go anywhere, and the event faltered. We were devastated. We just started to get the numbers back up again, and here came a pandemic. 2021 was a washout too, with only a single station registered. During 2022, Stefan approached John again to ask if he'd like our help to get the event moving again. And once again, he gladly agreed. So for a few months, Stefan emailed and called everyone on the circuit he could think of, from the ICQ podcast, social media, news feeds, and of course the RSG website itself. And the event was back. Now, Stefan and the NHARG team had not actually planned to run an event station that year, as we had had a few family and health issues. But unfortunately, John was also unable to operate from Carnival due to being stuck because of the collapsed wall on the Chesterfield Canal. So that meant with just a few weeks to go before the event, we had to find a new location with suitable facilities. This is where I come in. Now, Stefan had looked all over the area to try and find somewhere that could accommodate us, from water parks, marina sites, pubs next to the water, etc. And no one seemingly had any space for a marquee, 2 cars, and a rather long trap dipole. So Stefan asked me to look for a venue and see if I had any better luck. Within a day, I found the seemingly perfect venue, right on the edge of the River Derwent. And not only was it on a waterway, it had a cafe and a loo and a car park, but it was also a museum to boot. The host would be the Great British Car Journey Museum. And it had a gin distillery just over the Riverwalk. And this was the setup that we had. The picture on the left is the bit of car park that we were given and the scrapland where we were setting up our antennas. And then that is the gin distillery just over the fence. There is a blue line across the fence at the front of the picture, and that's quite a biggie. The most amazing thing was that the noise floor was near silent. A miracle considering there was a high voltage power line, the blue line, right next to the area we were to set up, and we were in the middle of a set of old industrial units, formerly a wireworks factory. After the event, Stefan and I encouraged the operators and clubs that had taken part to write up a little something for the website, just a few words and a picture if they could, and I then collated this into the article you may have seen in Radcom. Oh, what's he done to that? He's made it balance. So this is the 2022 BIWOTA article, and as you can see, it's 3 pages long. It's one of their nice large features, and this is available on the Radcom website under their back issues for January 2023. So that does bring us up to 2023, and with 29 registered stations, it was shaping up to be a great year. We'd also set in place our social media, and regular updates made it so much easier for stations to contact one another. And again, we had another big 3-page article in Radcom for 2023, and this appeared in the January 2024 edition. And it's proved so popular. Not only did I have to edit the entries down a bit, but Ed, the editor of Radcom, also had to trim them to fit. 2024 also had 29 registered stations. It seemed we'd reached a plateau on numbers, but that was okay. The social media campaign was busy in the run-up and generated over 50,000 views to the page in the weeks running up to the event. And here we have the 2024 article that actually went out in 2024. This was in the December edition. And just on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a picture of, with the red background, of myself, John M0JAB, and my dearly beloved Stefan, all in the old BIWOTA t-shirts there, just showing what was going on with the event. So 2024 was a brilliant year for participants, with so many stations that sent in pictures and a few words. Now, let me have a little quick go back, because I'm fairly sure. There you are, on the right, second one down, as far right as you can go, we have GX8 SRS. Stockport Radio Society were invited by members Ron, M7RJL and Tracy to join them on their narrowboat, the Little Treasure, moored at Bugsworth Canal Basin. The team set up and operated for the weekend on HF, SSB and CW, 2 meters SSB and FM, plus through the Q0100 satellite. A thoroughly enjoyable weekend was had with contacts around the UK, Europe and beyond. It goes on to say that the equipment used for the weekend was the HF kit, a Yaesu FT897, ICOM IC7000, a Zygu X6100, and the VHF kit was an Anytone AT778UV, ICOM IC7000, and finally the Q0100, a Yaesu FT817ND, breathe in, DX Patrol Q01,000, and full duplex ground station version 1. Big breath. Operators for the weekend were Ron and Tracy M7RJL, Keith M0JYP, Evan M0TJU, Nigel M0VNL, Nigel G0RXA, Carsten G0SYP, Neil M6NAE, plus Gromit, our mascot. So we move forward now to 2025. It was a strange old year for certain, because after the success we had with Mills on the Air event a few months prior, we were thrilled when we ended the weekend with a massive 47 register stations, more locations than had ever been registered before. The social media campaign meant that there were over 85,000 views on the page at the time the event began. And over the course of the weekend, that figure rose by over 15,000 views. It was safe to say that the page was being used. And that brings us to 2026. So what comes next? The vision we once had for BIWOTA was to see it become one of the must-do events in the radio calendar. This year gave us that in spades, and we are so very grateful. By encouraging people to take part on the radio and also to make use of our wonderful British inland waterways, we're helping secure not only amateur radio, but these precious spaces too. Having made the Facebook page a much more interactive place to be and introduced the new mapping feature on the website, we hope that we're moving in the right direction to keep people informed and entertained. The participation certificates are always popular, and now we have a decent amount of participants, we're extending the awards scheme. So we currently have the shortwave listener 10 plus, reciprocal contacts 5 plus, reciprocal contacts 10 plus, and the new award will be the reciprocal contacts 20 plus. And this won't matter what band you're on, whether you're using digital modes or whatever it is that you're using, really doesn't matter. If you're on the radio, you're on the radio. That's all that matters. And these are some of the certificates that we have issued in the recent past. To yourselves, no less. So that concludes the presentation for this evening on BIWOTA. Myself and Stefan would actually like to give a special thank you to Martin and the team at ICQ Podcast for their help in getting the event out there. Thank you for listening to this first part. We will now take a break for a few minutes in case anyone needs a cuppa or anything else.
Did with the this year with the restrictions on the water side of things on canals, did that have any effect?
It had effects on some of the stations. That's for sure. Foxton Lock were not sure whether they'd be able to get to where they needed to be, but fortunately there was enough water to get them to where they needed to be. And there were a few stations that had to change venue because again they either couldn't get to where they wanted to be, or the venues that they were going to use were closed because there's no boats, so no point opening and paying wages when you're not going to get the visitors. But overall, everybody that registered was able to take part in one way or another, and I think it's just a testament to how popular the event has become, that people have gone out there even with all of the horrible sort of lack of water that we've had this summer. So it was a fantastic event this year, and as I say, the one thing that I haven't put on the BIWOTA part is it is officially 15 years in 2026, so it's going to be the 15th year anniversary event. So again, extending that that awards scheme is all part and parcel of the potential celebrations that we're hoping to be able to put forward. So yeah. Right. Okay, so Mills on the Air, a history and a future. There we go. In the beginning, the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings was founded in 1877 by William Morris, the famous artist, poet and designer. It was a direct response to the Victorian restorationists of the day that were actually doing more harm than good. By 1929, it was being recognised that many of the great British mills were falling into disrepair or had fallen down completely. And it was decided that a doomsday book of the mills would be created, and SPAB would be the ones to do it. By 1931, the mills section of SPAB was official. This excerpt from the Evening News and Star from the 7th of August 1929 shows us the very beginning of our story. Vanishing Windmills. A doomsday book of windmills is to be compiled by the Society for the Preservation of Ancient Buildings in an effort to save this picturesque feature of the English countryside from total extinction. Windmills have been rapidly disappearing in recent years. Some have fallen down through old age, others have been pulled down as useless. The village milling industry is dead, so there is no hope of new mills being built to replace them. We shall compile a complete list of every windmill in the country, an official of the society told a Daily Post representative yesterday, and then publish it in a book with photographs. Local funds will be started to purchase mills that are threatened with demolition. Anyone who hears of a threatened mill should inform us. If something's not done quickly, there will be soon be no windmills left in this country. Within days, the Society were reporting mills being saved under their guidance. England saves windmills. In its campaign to preserve windmills, the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings in England recently arranged for the perpetuation of two. These are the Rottingdean and at Reigate Heath. It also has sent out word that should anyone hear that a windmill is to be demolished, he should notify the Society so that efforts should be made to save the picturesque building. The mill shown on this picture is the Rottingdean windmill, circa 1929. So this would be just as SPAB were getting involved. The article on this slide is actually from one of over a dozen American publications that all ran the same article over the course of about 6 months in 1929. By January 1930, there were pleas for help and funding in almost all newspapers, and a new title had been bestowed upon the writer, Windmills Secretary. So this one reads as a Sussex windmill. Dear Sir, there is a fine specimen of a post and roundhouse mill situated on the top of the hill at Boddle Street Green near Helsham in Sussex. This windmill has not worked for some time, and as no tenant can be found for it, the owners have decided to pull it down for the sale of the timbers, which had been valued at £250 approximately. In the recent gales, Sussex has lost two similar mills and now possesses few of this old type of windmill. The Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings would like to save this mill, but cannot do so unless the public will handsomely assist with contributions. It asks those who may wish to contribute to this end to write to me at the Society's offices, 20 Buckingham Street, WC2, and let me know how much they are prepared to subscribe. Yours faithfully, the Windmill Secretary. And by June 1931, the Mills section of SPAB was officially formed as its own entity and is mentioned here in the Wokingham Times in the July. Under Town Talk, there are a few windmills in the Wokingham district and at Shinfield, but their number is fast dying out. An organised attempt to save them from a threat of total disappearance has been launched by the Society of Protection of Ancient Buildings. The Society has formed a special windmill committee and have drawn up a definite plan which, with public support, should go far toward preserving the windmills. It is hoped it will be well taken up. Now we know where the Mills section came from. You have a little idea of the history that we're dealing with. Moving forward in time now to the first recorded mill activations. SPAB had by now created a National Mills Day. Started in 1984 and widely reported in the newspapers of the day, but Mills on the Air was still not a reality. Yet, on the 2nd of May 1987, Herne Mill was activated as G6HWN, operator name Dave. We only know this due to the existence of a carefully preserved QSL card. At the time, Mills on the Air was not a regular event, but this may well have been the very first inklings of the idea. And this card obviously has the mill on one side, which we've just seen, and then on the back, at the bottom, it very kindly has a little bit of history on the mill, saying Herne Mill is a Kentish smock mill built in 1789. It was raised on its present brick plinth in 1856. Milling was by wind power until 1952. Renovated in 1986 by Kent County Council, it is run by the Friends of Herne Windmill and gives the opening hours. During the writing of this talk, we contacted the East Kent Radio Society, who have confirmed that they were actually using the mill as their home QTH for many years from 2004 onwards. They believe that the Dave that signed this card may well have been the former chairman of the Friends of Herne Mill, Dave Bean, G3TJQ. In August 1989, Herne Mill was again activated, and this time 2 other mills took part, Crabble Mill and another as yet unnamed mill in the Kent region. This made the papers, and the article reads, Mill radio project to hit the airwaves. A radio station is to be established at Herne Mill later this month. Amateur radio enthusiasts will be trying to make contact with the station set up as part of the Mill's programme of special events this summer. Similar stations will operate from 2 other historic mills in East Kent, including Crabble Mill at Dover. Each will have a distinctive QSL card, and any amateur station making contact with all 3 will find the 3 cards make a map of East Kent displaying the mills. Call signs of Herne Mill will be GB8 Herne Windmill and GB2. And operation is expected to be on shortwave bands as well as VHF and VHF. I think that's meant to say UHF. Operating times on the Sunday, 27th of August, will be 11 AM to 1 PM and 2 PM to 5 PM. And there will be an opportunity for visitors to have the operation explained. The stations are expected to have a range of about 100 miles. Some operation is also expected at Herne Mill on Monday, 28th of August. So as you can see, this is a bank holiday event, but at the opposite side of the year. So although it is Herne Mill activating, it's not on National Mills Day. The National Mills Day was starting to attract radio amateurs, and in 1994, this card was sent from Willesborough Windmill in Kent. Was Willesborough the unnamed mill from 1989? Fast forward again, and this time to 1996. A young lady by the name of Jasmine Marshall, G4KFP, was looking over the script for the RSGB newsfeed when she came across a curious request. SPAB seeking assistance with matching mills to operators in order to help celebrate 10 years of National Mills Day. At the time, Jasmine was a member of Denby Dale Amateur Radio Society, and her partner Bill was the vice president. It was decided that they'd take on the challenge. After all, SPAB had only asked for half a dozen mills to be covered off. That wouldn't be hard, right? Jasmine had some initial difficulty persuading the club to take on the event, and so she decided that she'd simply do it herself. There was not enough chocolate or wine in the world that could have prepared her for what was coming. Part of the initial difficulty getting the event going was that the mills themselves were unaware that SPAB even ran a National Mills Day. So once Jasmine had explained this to them, along with some of the intricacies of amateur radio, she ended up with more than 30 mills interested in taking part. In her own words, the number of chocolates consumed was increasing. Now to get the radio clubs involved. And in an era that was just getting on the internet, this was not as straightforward as sending an email. Once she managed to get hold of the right people at the clubs, she then had to convince them that the single-day event was a worthwhile cause. And it must have worked. The next challenge came with pictures. Jasmine thought that each site that took part should have its very own special QSL card, individual, collectible, and informational. She enlisted the help of Kevin, G1FYS, who spent many hours creating the cards that would be issued out. These were created by using line drawings of the mills that took part and adding in a little of the mill's history to the card. And we have an example of this on the next page. So this is GB2UW for Upminster Mill. And again, every card was very similar. This is the only one we've currently got in the collection that we've managed to lay hands on. Yeah, it has a little history on there about the mill. We've tried to carry that on recently as well. So this reads as, Upminster Mill was built about 1800 by James Noakes. He and his brother took over the tenancy of Bridge Farm, and James built the mill on the highest spot, where the land drops away on all sides. The business prospered, and when James died in 1838, his son Thomas took over. In 1849, the estate was sold, and it goes on a little bit further as well. If anybody'd like a copy of this, I'll happily send it over. But it is quite long. So the first year of Mills on the Air was a massive effort, with the creation of not only QSL cards for 30 plus stations, but also for an award certificate, a special logbook, and all of the posted literature that had to go out to the mills taking part. By the time the event arrived, the team were wiped out, but Jasmine and Bill had booked in at Gleaston Watermill in Ulverston, 130 miles away from the club. And this is Gleaston Watermill, where they were booked in. Funnily enough, they have holiday cottages, so they're not just camping out inside the mill. Gleaston Watermill was a great venue for Bill and Jasmine, and they made the papers, even if the papers did get the finer points very wrong. So the picture shows Bill and Jasmine at the station that they'd set up, and the article reads, Gleaston Watermill was more than one of 300 mills taking part in National Mills Day. 45 working mills across the country were in action to celebrate the day on the Sunday, and others opened their doors to the public and held special events. Gleaston is a restored 17th century watermill with a working water wheel and a cafe next door to attract visitors. Nearby Roman remains have been found, It joins mills from as far afield as Wimbledon Mill on Wimbledon Common in London, Kings Mill in West Sussex, formerly owned by the poet Hilaire Belloc, and Maud Foster Mill in Lincolnshire, Britain's tallest mill. Gleaston Mill was taken over for the day, and forgive me, by CB radio enthusiasts who contacted colleagues in the other mills around the country. And the caption reads, "Hamming it up. Radio enthusiasts Bill and Jasmine set up their own radio station at Gleaston Watermill for the day on National Mills Day." We do have a lot of articles that refer to amateur radio as CB. It just seems to be that they don't know the difference. It's up to us to tell them. So, absolutely. The event was announced all over the national news, and there were several articles that appeared. So on the left, we have National Mills Day, Dover Amateur Radio Club using call sign GB2CCM for the special day went on air at 10:46, closing down at 5 p.m. In that time, contact was made with 75 stations, including 10 stations in Mills and as far afield as Northern Ireland, Alderney and Paris. Hugh Burton was happy with the contacts made and interest shown by many visitors. There were demonstrators and guided tours of the mill. And on the right, we have Horton Mill near St Ives is opening up this Sunday to celebrate the National Trust's Mills Day. The event on May 12th will allow visitors to go along and see the mill working. In addition, local amateur radio clubs will be joining the fun, sending messages from 80 mills dotted around the country. So there is a bit of a discrepancy on how many mills were actually taking place that year. But the biggest supporters seem to have been Gleaston Watermill, with newspaper articles and adverts all mentioning amateur radio. The 10th I'll put my teeth back in. The 10th annual National Mills Day was a roaring success for SPAB. So on the left, we have the article, Watermill Set to Make Waves, reading as Gleaston's historic watermill is going high-tech on Sunday by becoming an amateur radio station to celebrate National Mills Day. The mill near Ulverston is hosting the event and tuning into the nation's airwaves to mark the 50th anniversary of the Wind and Watermill section of the Society for Protection of Ancient Buildings. Special event stations which involve amateur radio operators are being set up at mills across the county, and Gleaston has been given the special call sign of GB2GW. Coordinating the event linking participating watermills is Denby Dale Amateur Radio Society, Denby Dale, West Yorkshire, and the Radio Society of Great Britain. Contact cards between the mills taking part have been prepared with a line drawing of individuals' mills on one side and a potted mill history on the reverse, plus radio contact information. Certificates will also be given to amateur radio stations contacting more than 10 mills on the day, which could involve amateurs worldwide. Gleaston Watermill will be one of 33 mills set up as radio stations for the day, most on high frequency, with some on VHF. And the mill will be open as usual from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. On the right-hand side is the advert that Gleaston Mill have put out, and basically says, "We are an amateur radio station for the day, come and listen," and puts their call sign on there as well. You may have noticed we put a star next to the 10th Annual Mills Day. Well, it's due to conflicting information that's currently available. Our records start in 1984, which would make it the 12th National Mills Day. But we're working with SPAB to try and clarify this, because we need to get these things right. Moving on from the inaugural event, Jasmine and Bill started to get ready for the second year. What they did not predict was just how popular it was about to be. 1997 totaled 137 mills being activated. It must have been utter chaos. The 1997 event was spinning along quite nicely, and with so many stations taking part, there was a lot to do. Jasmine had, however, arranged for something quite special to take place at Outwoods Mill. The acclaimed actress Judi Dench was to be in the area and was going to go live on air. The article on the left-hand side is actually about Cogglesford Windmill, Cogglesford Watermill in Sleaford. So a different location entirely, but there is mention on that article about Dame Judy's visit to Outwood Mill. So while Dame Judy was actually there to present a spab plaque to the newly reopened Outwoods Mill, it was too good an opportunity to miss, and she was soon transmitting on air, sending a warm greeting from GB2 OWS to GB2 GGM. While short and sweet, it cements her in our history quite firmly, and we're happy to have her as part of the legacy of the event. Mills on the Air was officially on the radar of many amateurs, including those from other countries. Operators from South Africa, Holland, and all four corners of the UK took part, and with the event now being a full weekend, more could take part than ever. The newspapers were all abuzz with the news of the event coming up, and there were several large write-ups for the 1997 event. Again, Gleaston Watermill were the biggest voice among many, taking out adverts that primarily showed amateur radio as the thing to come and see. The National Trust put a number of ads in the paper for their mills, and this one shows Horton Mill near Huntingdon, who were taking part in the event. And just in the centre there, it has Horton Mill, an impressive watermill on the River Ouse, with the headline of Milling Demonstration, flour for sale, scones made with the flour, also for sale, children's competitions, and radiometers will be linking up with mill throughout Britain and beyond. I'm assuming that's mills. The North Ferriby United Radio Society took part at Skidby Windmill and were recorded in some of the papers. Some great press for the mill and for the club. So on the left you have the advert that they put out themselves to say go and visit for National Mills Day. At the bottom, North Ferriby Amateur Radio Society invites members, friends and the public to visit them at Skidby Mill on Sunday, May the 11th from 10 till 4 to celebrate National Mills Day by exchanging radio greetings with other mills and radio amateurs. And on the right-hand side, we have a lovely picture of Skidby Mill and the chairman at the time, David Taylor, who it says here, where the society linked up with the other 80 mills and water mills around the country, and they were open as part of the day to give out historical information about the mill over the airwaves. I can't quite make out what the radio is that he's using, but it looks like he might have a home base. Just popped it on one of the benches out there. The next club we find mentioned is the Cunninghame and District Amateur Radio Club. They activated Dalgarvan Mill in Kilwinning, North Ayrshire. And the very dark picture on the right-hand side, I've not been able to improve it any just yet. But it does show a couple on their radios there. And reads as the historical Dalgarvan Mill at Kilwinning took part in an all-day worldwide radio hookup. 400 mills across Britain threw open their doors on National Mills Day on Sunday. Cunninghame District Amateur Radio Club was there trying to break the record for the number of mills contacted on the day. They tried to speak to their counterparts at 4 mills in South Africa and 1 in Holland. The picture on the right shows Radio Club members Alan Smith and George Anderson with Sheila Tandy and founder member John McRae. And the article on the left is pretty much the same, but mentions that they actually managed 32 mil contacts. And of course, Gleaston Watermill have some of the largest amounts of press. I will refrain from reading all of these out because there's quite a lot of them. But you can see in 1997, on the right-hand side towards the bottom of the screen, you can see that the very state-of-the-art computer hookup for getting started was right there. And again, they had these wonderful ads that they put GB2 GW calling, and Gleaston have been there since the beginning, so they're a good old sort of sport. In 1998, Jasmine took a step back from the organising of the event, and the team at Denby Dale took over. Headed up by Gerald Edinburgh at G3 SDY, a new era was beginning. Jasmine and Bill's Herculean efforts to get this event going will forever be the stuff of legend. Now, the records are not as full as we would like for the next few years, and we are quite reliant on the newspapers for snippets and details. 1998 was the last year of the big splashy articles, but the event itself persevered. So we have Crake Hall calling, Crake Hall Watermill, and that's the Hambleton Amateur Radio Society, GB2 CHW. We have Lead in the Air, England's highest tourist attraction, and that's the Bishop Auckland Amateur Radio Club, who, if I remember rightly, are the organisers of Railways on the Air. And they were on GB0KLM. And they have said that they're going to have 15 members of their club setting up 2 transmitters. So really good turnout. We also have Rob Denton hanging out the window at North Leverton Windmill. And he's from Worksop for the North Notts Amateur Radio Society. And then on the right-hand side, we have a double delight for Mills Buffs, Draper's Mill, and members of the Hildeston Radio Club were operating that there for them. So still lots of articles, but getting there. The early 2000s were a difficult time for many events. The foot and mouth plague that put paid to many events in 2001 and 2002 meant that some events stopped and never started back up again. Fortunately, Mills on the Air survived. The highest tourist attraction in England, Kilhope Mining Museum, had this lovely write-up in 2000, stating that they had taken part for the last couple of years and had reached over 100 stations worldwide. This is the Bishop Auckland site. That was the word. Brain went, no. So reads as, England's highest tourist attraction is reaching for the sky tomorrow in a global radio link-up. Kilhope, the North of England Lead Mining Museum in Weardale, will be beaming its name over the airwaves to help celebrate National Mills Day tomorrow. Enthusiasts from Bishop Auckland Amateur Radio Club will be sending its name around Britain and Europe using its call sign GB0KLM. The award-winning museum, the only mill in the country driving a stone crushing plant for lead, has reached nearly 100 stations worldwide in the past, including some in the US and Russia. Transmitters will be set up on site near the water wheel, and visitors will be able to look in on the action during the day. Museum manager Ian Forbes said, for the last couple of years, Bishop Auckland Amateur Radio Club have come to Kilhope and contacted people across this country and Europe. We love to see them here, and they enjoy the challenge of trying to contact other mills, sending the name of Kilhope around the globe. The museum is open daily from 10:30 till 5. One of the members from the East Kent Radio Society has very kindly sent over a copy of the station listing for 2008, which shows 40 active stations that weekend. One mill that was taking part was Gelagros in Wales, who'd been part of the event from the very start. She had a long history of her own in amateur radio. The owner of this mill's son, Artie Mull, is reported to have heard the SOS from the Titanic, but his report to the authorities was ignored. He was later hired by Marconi himself and went on to hold a senior position there. In 2009, a change happened. Dutch mills on the air began. In Holland and the Netherlands, the mills are primarily what are known as polder mills. These are water pump mills for land reclaim. Much like the water pump mills on the Fens near Cambridge, there are nearly 2,000 of them. At this time, this was just for Dutch participants. And in 2010, Germany wanted their own day too. So Mühlentag was born. Germany have over 7,600 mills that are on their national register, and that's a huge amount. Then in 2017, Australian amateur Tony Fowler began the Australian chapter of Mills on the Air. This was from Anderson's Mill in Smeaton, and he and his club have operated from there almost every year since. Worth a mention here is that all of these Mills weekends started out on different dates, and slowly they're all becoming in line with the original Mills on the Air weekend. The last part of the middle of the talk is a mention of the GMA. The Global Mountain Activity Group run a year-long Mills award scheme. This is a great resource for us, as well as you, to find local mills, as they have over 1,000 British mills logged on the site. It's also an opportunity to maybe try for one of their awards. In 2023, Bernard and Jelle, the organisers of the Dutch Mills Weekend, stood down due to ill health, and there was no successor to take on the event at the time. Very few people in the UK knew about this, and so the event hype slowly began to fade. And in 2024, Denby Dale Amateur Radio Club, formerly known as Denby Dale Amateur Radio Society, had decided that this would be their last event. An event that had begun 28 years prior and had activated over 660 locations. Yes, many are duplicates, and we do have nearly 15 years of data currently missing, was about to slowly slide into obscurity, and no one knew. And that brings us to 2025. In March, Stefan Latimer, M0LSL, discovered that the Mills event was no longer being served by DDARC and offered to take it on. At the same time, Lindsay Latimer, M6YMB, me, had messaged the club via social media to ask where we were sending registrations into. And initially, I was told that the Dutch mills were looking after it. I was then told that actually Stefan was going to be the new contact. Great news! This was in early March, and all of a sudden we had to move our rears into DEFCON 1. I'd already got a social media ready and Stefan a logo for us to use, just in case we were asked to take on the event. It's nothing like being prepared. And I had a bright idea or three. It left us with less than 12 weeks to put in place a full 12 months worth of advertising and raising an awareness that the event had new guardians. On April the 1st, the RSGB kindly put a post on their social media page letting everyone know that the event was taking place and where to send details to. And that really helped numbers. One of the fantastic features of the early Mills on the Air event was the mill history that was included with every QSL card. While we were not going to create a card for every mill, I decided to make full use of my Ancestry subscription, a most useful Christmas gift indeed. And I was still writing Mr. Mills histories days after the event had ended. This had an unexpected side effect. Windmills and water mills from across the country began to follow the page. Mill hoppers, this is what enthusiasts call themselves, came to the page in droves, and finally they started visiting the operating mills. So after spending many hours in front of the computer for both myself and Stefan, missed sleep, forgotten cups of tea, several bouts of unladylike language when things didn't quite go right, it was the night before the event. Stefan was off to activate Heach Windmill in Derbyshire on the Saturday morning, And if I felt up to it, I'd be going too, complete with my laptop to ensure the socials ran smoothly. Our activation weekend went without a hitch, and we ended the weekend with 65 mills registered, which was the most since 2016. The event was a success, and we, much like Jasmine and Bill 29 years ago, were shattered. There was a nice takeaway and a bottle of full-fat fizzy pop waiting. But there was no rest for the wicked, as they say. We had British Inland Waterways to prep for next. Radcom very kindly ran an article for us about the event, and this ran to 3 pages. We had so much more that could have gone in, but there was only so much room. The August issue of Radcom 2025 is still available online with your RSGB login. But these are the pages. And as you can see, we've got quite a bit on there. We have got Nunsfield House Amateur Radio Group, Cray Valley Radio Society, Stevenage and District Amateur Radio Society, Huntingdonshire Amateur Radio Society, Hildeston Radio Society, Mid Somerset Radio Club, Morecambe Bay Amateur Radio Society, and that was just the ones that we could fit in to the article. We probably had a half dozen more mini snippets that just wouldn't fit in. But we have got some cracking photographs that came in. 2026 will mark 30 years of the Mills on the Air event. It's one of the longest running events on the British amateur radio calendar, and we hope, as a couple and a club, to be able to take the event through for at least another 20 years. Age gets the better of us all. We sincerely hope you will join us in making the next 30 years of Mills on the Air a success. And as a thank you for having me this evening, I will leave you now with a few memories of your own club's history. The first mention of your club is in the 31st of March, 1921, and tells of the progress made in the early weeks of the club's life. The article reads, "The Stockport Radio Experimental Society are highly satisfied with the progress made in its life of 3 weeks. The aerial has now been erected and a test on the telephony set made. A programme of dance music and speech was transmitted by radio telephone, and at the club were quite clear and loud. A fixed weekly programme is being made for the club, and a local dealer is kindly supplying a programme of the latest records each week. The secretary, a Mr. Z.A. Furr, 3 Banks Lane, you'll be pleased to hear from all enthusiasts in Stockport and District who possess their own installations, especially transmitting, with a view of giving them the benefit of the Society's future concerts, etc." The next article is from 1926 and is a large form advert for a club presentation. So Stockport Public Libraries, and this is a lantern lecture, and some links on the broadcasting chain. The following aspects of the subject will be dealt with: studios, microphones, amplifiers and SB arrangements, transmitters and receivers. Chairman Alan Roberts, Esquire, President of the Stockport Radio Society. And this was doors open at 7 o'clock and commenced at 7:30, much like this evening. Moving forward to 1947, and an exhibition at the Textile Hall is the talk of the town. So radio fans show how it works. 6 radio transmitters built by members are being shown by the Stockport Amateur Radio Society at their first exhibition in the Textile Hall, Chestergate, Stockport tonight. 2 transmitters will be working and efforts will be made for visitors to contact radio enthusiasts abroad. And in 1952, television was the topic at hand. The Stockport Radio Society are calling all radio enthusiasts Tuesday, the 26th of February, 8 p.m. for the Blossoms Hotel, Buxton Road, meeting and film on how television works. And in 1984, The celebrations of the first 64 years of the club and its diverse membership were published in the Manchester Evening News. Calling all hams, come and join us. Stockport has the largest group of amateur radio hams outside of London, but they are still on the lookout for new members. The Stockport Radio Society was formed 64 years ago and now has a membership of 150, with schoolboys, housewives, professional people and pensioners actively involved. Recently, the club swept the board in a national Morse code contest, but as Club Secretary Mel Betts explained, competitions are only one of the many aspects of amateur radio. For many, the interest lies in teaching yourself about designing and building your own equipment and in radio frequencies. Others enjoy making contact with other operators from all over the world. Members meet at the Blossoms Hotel, Buxton Road, Stockport on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month and get together for an informal chat on the 3rd Wednesday. Anyone interested in joining can turn up on the night or contact Mr. Betts on his number. And finally, in 1990, the 70th year celebrations were well underway. So we have radio fans linking up with Lithuania, and in the picture we have Eric McFarland demonstrates a radio transmitter to 9-year-old Christopher Lowe during the Stockport Radio Society celebrations. The article reads, "The airwaves were open as Stockport Radio Society celebrated its 70th anniversary with an open day on Saturday. The exhibition at the Dialstone Centre, Lisbon Lane, included examples of radio technology from all decades since 1920, and visitors were given the chance to speak to amateur radio enthusiasts from as far away as Lithuania and East Germany. Among the prized possessions on display was an RAF Spark transmitter as used in World War I. It was used by amateurs after the war until it was banned in 1934 because it caused widespread interference with other stations. At the open day was Mr. Harry Armfield from New Mills, who has been a member of the Society since the 1930s. He brought a Baird mirror drum kit television, which he had originally constructed in 1935, and at the time it cost him 2 weeks' wages. Then it says, a petition. The Society originally met at Foresters Hall, Stockport, on June the 4th, 1920, when 12 people attended. Now, you'll remember on that, the first article that we saw was 1921, March 1921, and saying that you'd only been going for 3 weeks, and papers may have gotten something wrong there. In 1921, Stockport Wireless Society, as it was then known, was among 61 radio societies who put forward a petition to the Postmaster General to be allowed to speak on the airwaves, which was then illegal. The Society is one of the few still in existence. It started back up again after the Second World War, but dwindled away through lack of support. It was reformed when Mr. Ray Phillips returned from the RAF in 1950 and created Stockport Radio Society. Members have made radio contact all over the world and regularly enter amateur radio competitions. They have a good record in British National Field Day competition and often come within the top 3 and once won the whole contest. The Society meets at the Dialstone Centre, Lisbon Lane, Stockport at 7:45 on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month. Newcomers are welcome. Thank you one and all for listening, and Stefan, myself and the team at Nunsfield House Amateur Radio Group hope to hear you on the airwaves soon. 7 threes.
That's brilliant.
Very well done.
I mean, ignoring, not wanting to ignore what was gone before, but that was a very interesting history of ourselves there, should we say. And there's a few points I don't think that we've actually managed to find out going through all the years.
Oh, there we go.
It's extremely interesting. The interesting one, we always have an issue with the RSGB because, you're noting that we were 100 years old. but trying to convince them that we are 100 years old is a problem, should we say? Because they keep referring to us being 60 odd or 70 odd, and
Yeah,
they're going back to the time when it was reformed after the war.
exactly.
We have an issue with documentation being able to confirm that they did keep the membership of the RSGB going even longer, but
Yeah.
hey, that's a different story. But
But
very
yes,
good.
I found it quite interesting with that one little article saying that there was only 3 weeks of membership at the start of 1921. So that's interesting to find that little snippet.
I understand that I've been led to believe that it'd be worthwhile as making inquiries in the Bodleian Library down in Oxford about Mr. Zidian Foer, because I understand he was a sailor or a ship's captain or something like that, and that
Okay.
it'd be worthwhile as making inquiries as to about his history from that side of it.
I mean,
Uh,
if you can pop me his name and as much detail about his life as you can. Obviously, I've got that ancestry
yeah.
thing, and I'll happily try and trace any documents I can find through there.
Enough. All right. Okay.
So
Well,
happy to help.
I'm kind of guessing, is that where you got a lot of the information, the documents from? Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, newspapers.com. I pay £30 a month for a full access membership to ancestry.com.
Right.
And that gives me access to worldwide newspapers. It gives me access to all the family history worldwide, and everything I could possibly ever want. And I mean, so far I'm up to about 2,500 family members
Right.
on that side of things at the moment, and I keep getting sidetracked by
Mills on the air and BIWOTA and things like that. I
everything
suspect.
else. And obviously the pyrography book that I'm writing as well, that takes up a lot of everything else. So
Just a point there, Lindsay and Nigel. I do have the video of Harry demonstrating that TV that he built from his home in New Mills prior to his becoming deceased. Yeah, he's actually demonstrating it to his carer with the mirrors rotating.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that donated to a museum somewhere?
It was, I believe, it went to a TV museum in Yorkshire after he passed away.
That's Bradford, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought as much. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean that'd be a good video if you've got it. We can try and do something with it to either get it Lindsay's way, and also perhaps producing it online, should we say? Because I suspect that'd be quite interesting. That.
It's on there.
All right. Okay.
I can't reach that from here.
That looked like a key.
I gotta get a bit closer.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. But yeah, interesting. But I mean, ignoring obviously the history about us, which we obviously appreciate, because there was quite a lot of information there. Even I didn't know. But and I've been around a bit. But that was a very interesting presentation that by both BIWOTA and Mills on the Air. I just wonder. I mean, obviously their individual activities, should we say? Is there a point where perhaps the information about them needs to be brought together into one place?
Well, the information about the two is technically is all on NHARG's website. When we sort of took the other event, when we took Mills on, we put a comprehensive page together. There's actually even more detail on the NHARG page about the first 2 years of the Mills event, because Jasmine herself actually wrote an article on what was going off and everything that they had to do. So I've taken excerpts of that and incorporated it into the talk that I've given this evening.
Yeah.
Obviously, she wouldn't have had access at the time to any of these newspapers or anything like that. And I have hundreds of newspaper articles that mention amateur radio and the Mills on the Air and National Mills Day. and things like that, and then logs for who's been able to contact what and where. And we're piecing together the history because a lot of it is missing. Gerald, bless him, he did a fantastic job of what he was doing, but the records are very much incomplete. When we took the event on, we were going to have some information sent to us over who'd been taking part in previous years, but that was never forthcoming. So in order for us to move forward with what we got on the event, Stefan actually dug into his call logs from the last few years, and the NHARG call logs from the last few years. So we're not breaching anything like GDPR or anything like that, because we're using the records that we've kept ourselves. And then going through and sort of emailing all these people and saying, we're looking after the event now. Would you like to come and play with us? Please come out and play. And yeah, it really seemed to work. And then no doubt you all saw the plethora of posts that I put on social media of Mills on the Air. Hey, it's a week to go, it's 2 days to go, it's going to be tomorrow. And I was spending upwards of 8 to 10 hours a day on the internet, just writing these things up and sending them out, and hitting around about 200 groups every few days, and that was worldwide. Yeah, it was very tiring.
I can imagine. You mentioned producing write-ups and histories about individual
Yes.
mills, which I'd noticed that they were being published on Facebook, obviously. Do you keep, or is there a directory of those write-ups that you've done anywhere other than on Facebook?
It's all on Facebook, but one of the things that we will be doing is I've said to Stefan that I think it's actually a really good idea to actually have like you say, a directory of those, so that folks can just go straight to them. They can take that information, they've got it there, and then if we have a mill that's repeated in future years, I can just go straight to that page and go,
exactly,
yoink,
yeah, exactly.
instead of having to rewrite the blooming thing. Because that's one of the things that was taking a lot of the time. And I'd sort of thought it'd be really nice to hark back to the early days of having these histories. And I'd got access to all these newspapers, and I'd got access to the whole internet. And yeah, and I've got one of these brains that it latches onto something, and I lose sense of what I'm doing, where I am.
You mean you go down a rabbit hole?
Yeah, I fall down rabbit holes that have been dug by 1,000 rabbits, and then I can't get back out again.
Yeah.
The amount of evenings where Stefan's gone to bed nice and bright and early, because he's got work in the morning, and then he's got back up at 5, 6 in the morning, and I'm still doing the same thing. I haven't moved on from the mill that I'm on because it's got such fascinating history. And the great thing is, as well, is some of those those mill histories that we put up, the mills involved, they didn't know some of the information.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was one mill, and I forget which one it is now because there was that many. And there was a mill pond next to it, and there was a story in the paper that said one of the local school teachers had gone missing, and it was a foul weather night that he'd gone missing, and this was in the late 1800s, so this is something like 1870, 1875, something like that. So the language was very interesting and flowy, and it basically said, we fear harm's come to him, and then about 2 weeks later, there was a paper article saying that he'd been found. and he was actually stuck, his body was stuck underneath the bridge that goes over to the mill. Yeah, the only reason they found him was because some of the fish in the mill pond had started floating and dying because of his corpse gas. And that's how they found him. So it's little things like that. I know it's gross and, but it's just the most fascinating. There was another one where there was a lady who lived something like 6 miles away from an extinct mill. Now, this mill had been out of action for many, many years, lost its sails, mill pond had dried up, the whole works. And she walked 6 miles there every single day to feed the mill cats. And the paper reported on this, that she'd done this for 30 years. 6 miles each way, no matter what the weather was. And she did that just to go feed the mill cats. And you just think, surely, you'd either buy a house closer or you'd have all the cats spayed so you wouldn't have to do that. But this was the 1920s. So again, somebody that was very set in their ways and had probably been doing it since the mill was in action. But some of the social histories that have come out of them are just fantastic. Like you've got mills where the same family operate the mill for over 100 years. And then the last 2 generations, you'll have a son that's not interested, so he'll run it anyway. And he'll try his best to expand into something that he wants and lose all his money and have to sell the mill. And then the next generation are interested in milling, so they go and work for the person that now owns the mill, only for them to gamble the mill away on their behalf, and end up with their kneecaps broken because it's not their mill and they've gambled it and it's not theirs anymore. So yeah, there's lots of sort of macabre history that
Sounds
goes
like
with
the
the mills
subject for
and
a
stuff.
book.
Oh, it honestly, it's fascinating. And yeah, I mean, I have, like I say, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles that fit for every mill in the country. And as I say, that there's history that even the mill societies that have been there for years have no idea about.
I
None
suppose
at all.
I suppose BIWOTA doesn't exactly throw it open to the same kind of history, does it? In a sense, you can't pin a specific, mill or whatever.
No,
Canal.
no. I mean, we can do it with the water mills if we can get more people using water mills. So, for example, Cogglesford, that was a new one this year. They did Mills on the Air for the first time in a very long time, and they then took part in BIWOTA for the very first time, because BIWOTA over the years has expanded its range a little bit. It used to be only waterways that you could boat on or be a boat, or when Stefan and I got involved, we basically said, look, it needs to be any body of water that is accessible by the public that's inland. So if there is a pond and you can activate by it, go activate by a pond. It's water. It gets more people on the radio. It introduces it more to the public, and it keeps the event going.
Yeah, it throws it over to reservoirs, lakes, and all that kind of thing, doesn't it?
Not that old, but I was a friend of Eric McFarlane in his later days. Excellent.
Yeah, G3GMM.
Yeah.
G3GMM it was.
Absolutely, that's right. Yes. Eric was in his 90s. I was still taking him down to Lincolnshire and places like that.
Excellent.
It's not that long ago he passed away either, is it? It was just before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably about 5 years ago. Yeah,
that's right.
I think he was about 92 or 93.
And he was still
We
actually
went to our,
yeah, wasn't
yeah, we went to the last rally we went to together. I think he said he was 92.
Good innings.
Well, you certainly was actually. That's right. Yes, yes,
Yeah, very.
absolutely.
Bless you.
I'm going to say that before I just want one comment is anybody else want to raise any questions as far as Lindsay is concerned?
Yeah, Lindsay, as you're finding out so much about the mills, the thought strikes me it would lend itself to cataloguing on a website.
Yeah, that's the plan. That is the
Right.
plan.
Okay, because you could then have a permanent home for all this information that
Yeah.
you've got.
Yeah. So what the plan is we have Stefan and myself, we have our own server that we use for the Nunsfield House website. And what we'll do is we'll create a portal through there that can be used, and then potentially have a direct link, a website, Mills on the Air website, that can then direct link to there. But that's something that we've got to look for in the future, because one of the things that is a bit of a sticking point for a lot of these things is funding. Because domain names cost money and things like, I mean, this was a free sample from somewhere, but a lot of these things do cost money, so we have to try and think of ways to try and raise a little bit of money to do these things. One way that's been suggested to us is that we actually become a society or club for BIWOTA and Mills. We're looking into whether that would actually be feasible or not. But for us, as who we are, and then obviously, you know, just charge a small fee to be part of that, which in some ways would work well, because it would mean that if you're a member of the club and you want to go out and do an event station on your own without your own club, it would mean then that you're covered by the RSGB insurance under our banner, which is interesting little nugget there. But again, it's something, you know, whether it's that or whether we just do stuff like, you know, baseball caps or coasters or pens or notebooks or something like that, and just make a few quid on each one, and then that can then be thrown back into the pot to pay for a domain name or something like that.
That's very similar to the SOTA guys, isn't it? Because the SOTA guys do a shop and that kind of thing where the money goes back into, you know, funding the SOTA. So the potential is to go down that kind of route. I'm not sure whether they are a club or whether they are an organisation, but
yeah, I think the SOTA POTA guys are more of an organisation. I'm actually one of the moderators in the SOTA/POTA group on Facebook.
But one thing I was going to ask is, how's your German?
My German, yeah.
You don't fancy taking on doing the history of theirs as well, do you?
Mein Deutsch ist klein. My German is small. I've got high school German, but I mean the Mollentag, theirs is actually quite well organised, and they have people who actively look after it, so we don't need to look at folding that in. We have, however, folded in the Dutch contingent into Mills on the Air. So we are now the home of the Dutch Mills on the Air as well. So yeah, I learned a lot more about Dutch windmills than I ever wanted to. And I now know more about windmills, water mills, and steam-driven mills, and grist stones and millstones, and the tension that the straps have got to be than you ever wanted to know.
I can understand it, yeah. But,
Has Quarry Bank Mill ever been registered as style?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's being operated.
I honestly don't know. Is that one that's up near you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a National Trust site.
Okay. Well, that's your task then for 2026. Go activate that mill.
Well done, Tony. You've taken that one on, have you?
It's just interesting because I've never heard of it. I've never seen it being activated at all.
No, I've not. Now, whether there's some kind of restrictions down there, I don't know, because it is in a dip, isn't it? So, but
It's in a dip, yeah.
having said that, though, my experience is that you'd probably be able to get out at least on those kind of things. It was funny when I was thinking about mills in the area as to what potential there could be as far as water mills, and that Quarry Bank Mill was the one that I thought about. The other one is Swettenham Mill, but that's a bit far away, isn't it?
We've got about 4 mills in Stockport.
Yeah, but are they water mills though?
Doesn't have to be a water mill, could be a windmill.
Well, put it this way: the one down near the gas board there, you could call that a water mill because it always gets flooded.
The great thing is this year we actually had some mills that were taking part that they were barely more than just ruins in the ground. Essentially, those mills existed once upon a time, and there was next to nothing left of them. But we had them activated anyway.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that they are on the historic register. They are there. They existed. And if we can raise the awareness that actually there are still some ruins there, there's still some remnant of that mill there, maybe, just maybe, SPAB or National Trust might be able to look at it and go, well, actually, we can, we might be able to fix that, or we might be able to pull that out of the water that it's rotting in, and maybe put it in a museum somewhere, and save what's left. And yeah, and I say one of those was a water mill next to a farm, and the name of it escapes me, but all that's left of it is a bit of metal water wheel in the side of the riverbank. That's it. That's all that's left.
That's an interesting point, though, as far as water mills. I was just trying to think of the water mills that might be in the area around here. Bearing in mind that we used at one point in time, your history might have showed up that we met at somewhere called Bear Mill. Now, I suspect the mill relates to the fact that it was a textile mill of some sort. Now, whether there was any kind of water involved, I wouldn't like to say. It's a dome which looks like a pear, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, in that kind of area, there was a few mills. But I'm sure that they're related to the fact that it was a textile mill, as opposed to a standard issue water mill. Then again, it was right next to the Mersey, so right next to the Coit. So it's quite possible that it's something to do with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm just having a little quick look. Okay, Edwardian cotton spinning mill on the northern bank of the River Goyt. So that would work actually for both mills and inland waterways.
Well, there we are. You see, I mean, we've done the waterways one from Bugsworth for the obvious reason that one of our, Ron and Tracy have got a boat, so ordinarily it would have been operating from the boat, should we say? But it throws up all types of possibilities. Certainly in terms of mills. I'm not sure I would want to set up next to that because of where it is. I don't know about your feeling on that, Tony. Assuming it's still there.
Yeah. Well, the setup there
near Pear Mill, because it's not exactly the most salubrious of places, is it?
It's not really. No, I mean, ironically, when you think about it, nearly all the mills in Stockport have had a river run adjacent to them. But Pear Mill, no.
But when we met
there's a space at the back where they store they store caravans. There's a caravan park at the back of it.
Yeah.
So in a big car park there, so you might get from there. The only trouble is around the back when you get towards the back of it near the river, you've got all the trees there.
That's
At
right.
the front of it, at the front of it, don't forget you've got all the high power substation.
That's right. I mean, we used to meet in T.S. Hawkins there, which was right next to, but the benefit for us there was we were behind an iron fence. But
So,
hey, but it's
but yeah, I mean, if you want help trying to find a mill location, then I'll happily look through the records, see what I can find.
fair enough. That's a good point from that point of view. I mean, certainly we would. I would expect that BIWOTA would be back at Bugsworth.
Oh yes. Well, we do like seeing you guys at Bugsworth because it always brings us a smile.
Yeah, one of your guys, your was it Nosfer's chair? Yeah, he dropped by, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, that's right.
He was saying to me on the Friday that oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to go up to you. I'm stuck at home and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's all right. There's a station right near you. And he went, is there? I went, yeah. So you've got no excuses. Get out there, go and say hello.
Which he did.
I will say thank you ever so much for having me, folks. Dates for next year's mills are the 9th and 10th of May, and BIWOTA is the 29th to 31st of August. Evan, I don't know whether you've gone already, but thank you ever so much, darling, and we'll see you again. So yeah, that's the 9th and 10th of May for mills on the air, and 29th and 31st of August for BIWOTA. So with that, I shall say 7 threes, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Lindsay, thanks again. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
You're very
And,
welcome.
Thank you.
As you might notice, it has been recorded, so at some point in time, it will be available as far as the recording is concerned. So,
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you
Yeah.
ever so much.
yeah,
I
no worries.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon, and best wishes to you the other half as well.
I will send him your best wishes. All right,
Appreciate
take care, everybody. And,
Nice to see you.
hopefully
Have fun.
you
Bye.
get out of it.
Bye now.
Kick out.